Welcome to the Ty Odom Podcast. I'm your host, Ty Odom. I am a social worker who has always worked in the nonprofit sector. And along the way, I noticed that many people have the desire to help the community, but just didn't know how to get started. And that's where I come in. From volunteering to starting a nonprofit, this podcast will help you learn how to use your time, talent, and treasure to live out your dreams of helping others. Bi-weekly, I'll bring on a guest that I believe you will find helpful, inspiring, and whose journey can teach us about service. Whether you're just getting started or you're an experienced leader, this inclusive philanthropy space will bring creative ideas, simple strategies, and resources to help you along your journey. Between our guest and my many years of experience, here we help you develop the confidence you need to tap into your inner philanthropist and unlock the immense power that we all have to serve. Thanks so much for tuning in and welcome to the podcast. Hey, good people. It's me, Ty Odom, and welcome to this episode of the Ty Odom Podcast. Today, I have a guest in studio who has been instrumental in working with nonprofits that have worked with entrepreneurs to help them build and scale, to launch initiatives and events. He has a strong family history of philanthropy that we will dive right on into. So I'm grateful for his time and for him sharing with us today. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Alvin Singh.
Hello. Peace. How you doing?
Doing great.
Thank you.
How are you?
Very good. I'm feeling spectacular.
Yeah, okay. SAT
Fantastic.
word.
Spectacular and fantastic together.
Okay, remix. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. I met Alvin when he was first working at a local nonprofit that does startup loans, that walks people through the space of entrepreneurship. And so that's where I know you. So you are a serial entrepreneur. You have a blender that I love. I can take it on the go.
Yep.
Juice. So thank you so much for joining me and sharing with our audience and our community about all the things that you've done and experienced. So I think I hit the nail on a couple of things, but if you would just introduce yourself and fill in any gaps that I made.
So, name is Alvin, like you said, Singh, from Nashville, Tennessee. Went to a HBCU, Hampton University.
HU?
Yes, right. That's right. And went to actually grad school in University of Washington in Seattle. Lived in South Africa. Worked as a journalist. I've helped out, like you said, help a lot of small businesses get funding, small business funding. But more so, I mean, I'm kind of a very curious kind of curator. So a lot of things as far as music, that's from my DJ background, or, technology and how gadgets and human behavior works. And that's what my interest is. Okay.
So I love that you said you're a curious curator.
Yep.
I love it because one of the things that I also know is you do something where it's tech is the new hip hop.
Yes.
And you teach classes, and I feel like there are times where I'm like, hey, Alvin, I need to know how to do something. And you're like, okay, let me walk you through this. So I appreciate that because your girl, my tech skills are like not, they're getting better.
I mean, I see you right here doing the podcast and doing the editing. So, I mean, that's something right there.
Yeah, so they're getting better. They're getting better. So let's talk through some of your experiences of what actually got you into working in the philanthropic space. So if you were to think back, what do you think drove you to be such a curious giver?
Oh man, that's a great question. So right before you asked that question, I thought I had the furthest period, but now I just thought about where that kind of my giving back kind of thought process come from. And it actually came from raising money actually to go on an exchange program. I was about 14 years old. And they had the YMCA had a United Nations mock debate, right? And teams would be a certain country, and then this, they would explain what they're needing, kind of, like a United Nations Shark Tank for teenagers. And so I chose Somalia at the time. And I was actually by myself. And so everybody else had like 2 team, 3, 4 team members. I ended up winning. So with it, I won a trip to Venezuela. And for about 3-4 months, I lived in Venezuela. And that's where it opened up my mind of how I could do something to like go see something, right? So then that's what sparked different things, like when I went to Malawi and able to see, okay, there's, a need for water, and then how do I come back to raise funds or do something for it? But the sense of giving back then on our foundation came from my grandmother started the Leadbelly Foundation, which is proceeds from his royalties. That was actually to build a new tombstone, because he's buried in Shreveport, Louisiana, and tons of rock stars from Mick Jagger to Robert Plant and all these different musicians. Whenever they would go through Shreveport, they would go to this gravesite at this black church. Well, it was just a stump that was there. It was nothing that was there. And so my grandmother decided to do a nonprofit at the very beginning to just build a tombstone. Well, right now they got an actual like gate around it and tombstone. And now people actually go in and play their guitar next to it and send pictures. But then from there, she said, well, let's use some of the proceeds to do a music scholarship. So what about, children who would learn how to play music, but couldn't get the lessons or the tutorial classes or the instruments to afford it. And so coming from Leadbelly's story, that's kind of inspired me a little bit. How, again, you can use something to help design, bring back and help others.
Yay. So you touched on 2 different initiatives there. So Malawi and the water.
Yep. So
let us know kind of how that project started. Where is it? Did you guys successfully raise the money? Got the water?
Man, that's so. So it's called Smiles for Malawi Project. And I was actually going with a group of doctors from the United States that were going to visit maternity clinics. So we were visiting, mothers who were 8-7 months with no prenatal care, pregnant and having babies, sometimes walking 2-3 miles just to see the doctor. So we were visiting these clinics, these hospitals, and I think I took a break one time from it because it was just kind of hot. We were just going into medical room at the medical room. They're talking, then the doctors are going into the little boardrooms, and it just it was getting a little monotony for me. And so I went to visit. A friend of mine had a pastor in Malawi, and that pastor came and picked me up and took me to the village. Well, I'm just sitting there walking around, and as he's talking, I have no idea what made me just start saying, put that on the list. So he's, hey, this is where we, have the church, but we need a tin roof. And I said, put that on the list. Then he went and showed me where the women were walking miles and miles just to get water, water to cook, to bathe, and to clean. And I said, well, how much does a water pump cost? And he was saying about $800-900. And I said, put that on the list. Well, I walked out of there with like a $3,000 list, like a tin roof, 2 water pumps. It came up to that. I had no idea. I had no foundation, no idea to how to raise this money. Only thing that I did know was to go to Indiegogo, or crowdfunding.
Yes.
Because with my technology background, if I can offer a T-shirt, Smiles for Malawi, then it goes towards this water pump. Or if I can offer the documentary, because I was filming a lot of it, then that was a good way of doing it. Well, we ended up raising $10,000.
Whoop, whoop.
And we built it. Oh, it was a feeding program with it. Like it was like breakfast for school children for like 4 or 5, 6 months or something. Yeah. Oh, and I had partnered with the Joyce Bonder Foundation. So it was really hands-on. I actually want to do something like that again. So to keep it sustainable.
Okay.
To ask that question. How do you think people can keep those kind of like programs when they do them to keep them sustainable? What's a good way, especially when it's coming from individuals, kind of like acts?
Well, that's a really good question. People rarely ask me questions on the podcast. So I would say something like that would totally depend on if the relationship is with a church, a particular person, the leader of the village, and then to say, okay, what does this cost to keep up annually? So the first place I would start is, if it was $800 to put in, it might be $200 a year to sustain. So the people who invested in it first would probably continue to invest in it in some capacity if they continue to get information. So I would say that I would start with the group that helped me start it and say, hey guys, this is great. If you commit to $200 a year for the next 5 years or the next 2 years, that takes care of this pump for 10 years.
Right.
So I would show people that on our end, if we think about $200 a year, that's literally us going to lunch or dinner a couple of times a year.
Right.
So I would start there, and I would look and see if there were any types of grants that help with the infrastructure in the country that you're working in.
And that's what's interesting, because then the question sometimes is, should the government of that country continue it, right? If you build a school, should they keep the lights on and pay the teachers? If you put the concrete and everything in place in the bathroom, and those places where it's rural areas, governments are shoestring budgets, or there's corruption. I did get a sense of man, when we built this, first of all, it stopped the mothers from traveling so far, so it was a safety issue,
right?
And two, they weren't dropping the buckets in this hole. So that's the danger, because children fall and, things happen. So it was a pump. But then, like you said, there's maintenance throughout the year. And, there's the high of kind of doing it. And wow, I completed this. But then I wonder right now if it's, just something that's just the kids are, decorating it.
And I think that's what we see in philanthropy, which is we get started and then we have to have a great sustainability plan. And that's across the board in many different things. It could be something as simple as, we're going to give you this and then we gave you this, but what happens next? And I think that's just kind of some shifts in philanthropy that are happening to say, what is it that we do to sustain something of this nature? And so I commend you for thinking about that now, to say how could we have worked on a sustainability plan,
and reasonable for the locals,
for who can maintain this, who can keep this up, that sort of thing. And so one, doing the work is exciting, right? Everybody loves something new. Y'all know I like to start something new, right? We start something all the time. And then it's what happens? How do we keep it going? What goes on? How does it work? All those things. So yeah, I think if you wanted to do it again, just put in a sustainability plan, which is...
So we would say not necessarily budget or plan for the creation of something, but then also put a 5-year or 2-3 years, how it would keep on. That's interesting. People don't think about that.
Yeah, because we like the new part. It's new. It's fun. It's the shiny thing that we're doing on our plate right now. Okay, so then we went into Leadbelly. So prior to attending an event at the Pryor Center here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, I can't tell you I knew a thing about Leadbelly. So for those of you who are listening, do not feel bad if he just went into that, because your girl did not know 6-7 months ago either. So if you'll just tell us about who Mr. Leadbelly was and that relationship.
Yeah, so Leadbelly was a blues folk singer in the 1930s and 40s. Very much labeled the king of the 12-string guitar. That's what he labeled, and that's kind of all the guitarists kind of give him that. He's popularly known to have gotten 2 prison pardons from the governors. Both, they believe, from a song that he made. So the first time he was in Texas prison in the 1930s, and on the last day of the governor, who had received the song that Leadbelly had kind of individually freestyled on the spot, and the governor pardoned him. And the next time he was in the infamous Angola prison, and he was pardoned again. Leadbelly songs like Black Betty, Where Did You Sleep Last Night, Good Night Irene, so many songs that we've heard, like Ram Jam, Wyclef, who else has used it? Odetta, Harry Belafonte. You know, it's such a long genre of people. Mm-hmm. And when I was kind of got older and into music myself, I was asking my grandmother more about Leadbelly because she actually lived with him in New York City. And she's the one that took all his stories and was for many years just talking and speaking about him to keep his image in a positive perspective. Because see, back then, all the pictures would show him in prison stripes. And she was saying, no, he actually liked wearing a suit because when he got out, and that's all the pictures show is he wears a suit because he took being a professional singer very seriously. His friends were people like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Josh White and Paul Robeson, very interesting, world characters. Mm-hmm. So, what I've been doing the last few years is telling his story in a new age and helping people. We've been working on the documentary that's coming out. Got B.B. King, Joan Baez, everybody real nice. And putting it in a new form of telling the story again. And so that's what we're working on.
That's exciting. I think for me, when I hear that story, when I saw you talk about him, speak about him at the event, it reminded me that there is a space where for some of us who get into philanthropy, our families have always been giving people that we've seen it from when we were children. And then what a cool opportunity for you to be able to keep his name alive, keep his legacy alive, share it with a brand new generation of people who, unless you're into music, you may not know who that is. So kudos to you for doing that, for working with the Pryor Center to be able to bring that to people. I remember being there and someone had on like a Leadbelly t-shirt and they were so excited. And it was like, man,
Oh, that ended up being a whole nother connection from that. Well, shout out first to the Music Education Initiative.
Yes.
Orson and his wife and their team bringing a lot of acts to the juke joint. So when I was like, hey, let me tell the story right in front of it was a no-brainer. But the guy that you were talking about, you're right. He was like in the middle and did the whole Superman, like pulled the shirt out. I was like, why is this guy showing me a Leadbelly shirt? And he ended up being a former diplomat for the State Department who was telling me about these culture exchange programs. And he was like, oh, they would love that, overseas because Leadbelly is American, icon and historical figure. So that is the good thing about doing events like that.
Awesome. People come connectivity.
Yeah, a lot of connections.
The mission doesn't move without connectivity, right? Like no matter how many people come in, we've got to like really dive into getting to know someone, getting to figure out like, how do I serve them first and foremost? And then is there a way for me, for them to serve me as we navigate this connectivity and this commonality that we have, right? So the commonality is Leadbelly, right? You served us, sharing information, and then they felt like, oh man, I want to connect with you in that space. So for those of you who work in this space, you don't work in a silo. You aren't doing this alone. Make sure you get out. Make sure you are meeting people. I know we like to think we know a lot of people, but in hindsight, we all know 3,000 to 5,000 people. Like there's a billion people on the planet. So I just want to encourage you guys to do that. So as you're talking about Leadbelly and the growth and how the shift went from we're going to create this organization to honor him with the tombstone to expanding to offering scholarships and helping students that want to tap into that musical talent that they want to explore. How can people now support the Leadbelly Foundation in regards to helping students still have access to scholarships?
Good question. So there's the Leadbelly Foundation. You can go to leadbelly.org. There's that way. And there's something that I'm working on now, which would be kind of an exhibit kind of tour, which is something I'm going to put together that it'll be like kind of very much updated. And it's going to include multimedia presentation with exhibits of some of his actual items and replicas. And I think by, supporting events and things like that, that's the give and get back. So that's kind of like helping with the water pump but you get a t-shirt. If you give $50, you get the t-shirt and the documentary. So it's, because in this case, it's not about just getting money and then we just give instruments to the kids. The second component is learning more about his history, you know. And you're right, man. There's a lot of advocates that are people, you know, like the guy that came, let me give you my contacts. I don't want anything from it, you know. Right. So you can have people, if you have a mission and a cause and you are projecting and are communicating it, you will get advocates that don't want anything from you, you know. Right. So that's a good point, man.
You've got to let people know what you do. I know that in this nonprofit space, we kind of do the work. We do the work. We do the work. We don't invest in marketing per se. We don't shout from the rooftops, you know, but I want to encourage anybody who is in this space to know that you need people capital. You need to be able to call so-and-so and get such and such done, however that works. So networking is still vitally important, and not just for donors. We don't just want to call people because we need money. A lot of times people are like, I mean, I know I'll hear from them from like November to December because they want my end of the year check, right? But I mean, in March, I probably like could have helped you do something. So I want to encourage you guys in that space, share what you do and share what you do often. And who you're supposed to be aligned with will be aligned with you, and you will find support in that space.
I'm really thinking about something that just made me think was, in the philanthropy stage and what we have right now, there's a book called Winner Takes All, where he's like kind of like going real hard on billionaire philanthropists. And a lot of things is looked upon as an organization that had made the money and they give it away, or an individual made a whole lot of money and he gives it away. In this case, there's Leadbelly, who's passed away 70 years ago. He's the commodity, like you said, the commonality. But his music or whatever people support today, books or documentary, can help other people. And it's interesting as we in this kind of content creator world, and I always talk to you about that, where's the next space? Because we in, you know, how to make money from 7 different streams, and you can make money from your photography, you can make money NFTs and the podcasts and videos. Where those kind of creators, if they are successful, if that's the whole goal, going to have things in place to like a Leadbelly where 70 years later, you know, and doubt it, he's not selling millions of records every year, but whatever portion that comes through is able to help 5 students, you know. Right. That's kind of interesting because we don't want to get into a world where we're only counting on big people with big budgets or big things. You know, there's some things that maybe you can set up as a content creator nowadays. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, I think when I think philanthropy, I don't like to think all the big people. Those people do have the pockets that literally could change the trajectory of someone's entire organization today if they wrote a check. But I also know that collectively, if we had 100 people give us $100 a month over the next 10 years, that is still impact that can be made. But we do live in a space where we think big all the time versus, okay, am I consistent? Am I giving this $50 a month? Can this happen? And if 100 people are giving $50 a month, 100 people are giving $100 a month, that is what really can sustain an organization long term. Yeah. Of course, a big check from, you know, Oprah Winfrey can do it too. But for organizations who don't get that opportunity, it's the small things. And it's a bunch of people doing a bunch of small things.
I would encourage people to create things that the proceeds goes towards a cause nowadays, you know?
Yeah, I think too.
You can do that.
You can do that. So when you think about like social entrepreneurship is pretty much what some of the space is. You said you're from Nashville. I lived in Nashville for a while, and I love a place out there called Magdalene House. And Magdalene House has created this model where their women have a coffee shop, or they did. I have not lived in Nashville for a while, but they had a coffee shop. They had something called Thistle Farms, and it was like a socioeconomic, like it was an enterprise, but it was to fund that nonprofit's mission.
Right.
And so if that's your business model, because remember, y'all, these nonprofits are a business. If that's your business model, 100%, 100%. Or if you are a company, for instance, my company is who hosts the podcast. My goal is to make some money so that it can pour into the causes that I'm continuously championing. And so that's, pretty much what you're saying. So I think what I took from this is you can die and
still make an impact years later.
And you're still making an impact years later.
Right.
And I think that's the space where it falls on the responsibility of someone to care enough and to do it and to make that happen. So kudos to you for
my grandmother,
and your grandmother and your family for taking this and saying he's gone, but his music will live forever, and it'll live forever through the impact that we're making in these kids. So if you're sending 5 kids to school, of those 5 every year, they're going to touch someone. They may become music teachers. So thinking about the ripple effect of what philanthropy can do, even when we think that it's a small thing.
Correct. One of them, I just recently was a fireman.
Yeah.
He just graduated, and he was with the trombone in high school. I remember him and everything. Yeah, he was a Leadbelly scholar. But
that's cool. Yeah. I think when I think of your story, I think of your experiences. I think of all the things you've done. I think of the creativity that you have. Thinking of, who is thinking I'm going to have a portable blender and I'm going to need it, right? Your tech mind, all those things, the impact that you've had, whether that's through Malawi, through raising funds for other things, through the Leadbelly Foundation. I asked all of my guests this. Have you ever considered yourself a philanthropist?
Probably, yes, I have in my own little mini world.
Yes,
definitely.
Good. Because when I get people like, no, I'm not a philanthropist. I'm like, yes, you are. By definition, you are. By world status of giving, $1 million a year, maybe not, but you've given and you've shared and you've taught and you've loved and you've just been there to support people. So how can people support any other projects that you have? Because you have Tech is the New Hip Hop. Is that like a standalone thing?
That's a course that I'm working on, kind of doing some more on. I did at the library, Fayetteville Library. But it will be the Midnight Experience. So that's what I'm working on, that tour. So just follow me on Instagram, Bookido, Bookido, or Leadbelly. You can follow Leadbelly, the Leadbelly Foundation. That's the best way.
That's the best way.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to tell people, like, I'm very appreciative every time. You could be doing a whole lot of things, but you came into the booth with me and I appreciate you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. For those of you who are listening, I hope that you find something that you care about. I hope that if you have an opportunity to create philanthropy with your family, to leave a legacy for your family in that space, I hope that you do it. And I hope that you know that it can be whatever you desire for it to be. Big is not always the best. Deep is always good. And it will create a ripple effect just as big will. So thank you so very much for coming into the booth with me. You are super awesome. And thank you guys so very much for listening to the Ty Odom podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to my mom's podcast.